Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is part 3 in the series of identity and building a sense of belonging. This is going to be on the topic of how to honor racial identity. So racial identity refers to one's sense of self that is related to their membership in a racial group. It encompasses the strength of one's identification with their racial group, attachment to other group members, and evaluation of group membership, including attitudes and behaviors relevant to the group. Racial identity is a multidimensional construct that involves both external and internal aspects. The external aspect refers to how an individual of their race is perceived by others, while the internal aspect pertains on how an individual personally identifies. Understanding racial identity is important for many young people, particularly those who are members of minority groups, as those dimensions of the self can instill feelings of belonging and pride. These are all part of a child's identity, confidence, self-esteem, and well-being, sense of belonging to a community. Now, I can tell you firsthand, my personal experience living in a colorblind household, this is not the way to go. This is not the way that adoption competency training is taught, how to raise a transracial child. I know it can be common thinking that color doesn't matter, or you don't see color and it's doing a service to your child, trying to teach them to not see color. But this is just not the case, and hopefully I will get to the reasons why by the end of this video. So to honor a child of color's sense of belonging into their racial group and building their sense of belonging and their racial identity, you should live in a diverse area with kids that look like your child and that your child says they feel connected to. Representation of your child's racial community is very important. You can see the world in color as a parent of a child of color. Personally, my parents told me that they didn't see color, and what that meant to me and other transracial adopted children I speak to that are now adults mean that you don't see them. And this creates a big disconnect between the parent and the child. And if you're trying to build a connection and attachment with the child, there's no other way around trying to build a connection if you say that you don't see your child. So saying that you see the world in color and acting as if you see the world in color, acting that you do see the world in color is the best way to raise a child of color. Becoming part of the child's world, going to events, spaces where the parents may be the only ones of their race, to see what it is really like to feel like the only one or out of place, to see what the child deals with internally. I actually told my parents to do this. I told them to go to an all black, all Mexican, all Asian place, maybe a church or a community or something like that. And they never did it. And I tried to tell them, like, this is what I experienced daily growing up. And it's just something that even the National Training Initiative is telling you to do. So that's very important and vital. Integrate music, art, and food, other cultural elements of the child's or youth heritage into family life, familiar things from the child's cultural heritage. Talk openly about similarities as well as differences to create a sense of belonging. Take the initiative to let the child know it is okay to talk about. Choosing an integrated school. My parents chose to take me to an all-white school, and what this did was it made me stick out like a sore thumb, and I was very out of place. And I know bullying happens everywhere, but this was in the South in Georgia in the 80s and 90s, and I got picked on horribly. And it was out of racism. It was just because of the color of my skin. There was no other reason. It was bad. But the next thing you could do is call out racism and microaggressions and standing up for fairness. This lets the child know that you have their backs and gives them a sense of that you get it. Giving children and youth the tools they need to cope, defend against, and assess the risks of racism and discrimination. Letting your children and youth know that you have their back no matter what happens. Becoming more self-aware of white privilege. Resources will be in the description box below. This is actually covered I will put the video that's in the National Training Initiative of Adoption Competency Training. It's the video that is actually shown in the training. I will put in the description. Honor the culture and history of your child. Learn together with them. Teach them. Research in your own time. Buy books, audiobooks. Research YouTube videos that share the real history of their race, the good and the bad parts, because a lot of history is not taught in our schools. Seeing a child for who they are, acknowledging that diversity matters, acknowledging racism, make it okay to talk about, and it should be made clear that it is okay and can be brought up whenever questions arise. Again, take the initiative. Creating relationships outside of your family with people of the child's or youth's race and culture. If you look around at your dinner table, your neighbors, your work and social interactions, and you don't see anyone that looks like your child, you have work to do. The more comfortable you are as a parent getting out about and talking about race, the more comfortable the child will be. The comfort levels match. If you are very uncomfortable talking about race, your child's going to meet you there. The parent has to be the leader in the relationship. The children are most likely to mirror your comfort level, acknowledging that we do live in a race-conscious society. So it is often said that racism doesn't exist. Race isn't real. Race is a social construct. While that is true, we do live in a race-conscious society, and the racism is alive more than ever, especially right now. Be an advocate for your child and honoring their race. So some examples of how you can handle discrimination and racism when it comes up. If, let's say, you're out and about with your family and somebody comes up to you and says a racist remark that they may not even understand as racist, you can say, "Your comments are inappropriate. Please do not say that again." Or another thing you can say is, "I am sure you didn't mean to be disrespectful, but your comment is offensive." Saying something along these lines will show that you have your child's back and your intolerance against racism. A major thing I would like to point out is that it is detrimental to place a child with a parent who denigrates his religion, culture, or racial identity, just as it would be detrimental to place them with a parent who ignored his history, experiences, physical, or mental health needs. It is just as important. Not addressing these things has been proven in transracial adoption to lead to greater psychological distress, lower self-esteem, and discomfort with their own race and ethnicity, on top of the mental health and developmental trauma issues that already come with adoption. This is for transracial adoptees. I'm speaking from experience. This is taught in the training how vital this is. Just like you wouldn't deny somebody needs for emotional or mental help, or special needs or physical help with a wheelchair, you would not deny them their racial or cultural identity. Questions to open up conversations about race with the child. You can say, "Do people ever ask you questions about your skin color? If so, what did they say? Do people ever ask you why your skin color is different than your family's? Have there been times when you were treated differently because of your race? Have you ever been teased about your race? Has there ever been a time when you thought that we as parents were racist?" This could be an open-ended question to figure out where the child's at, what their experience is in their world, because often it is very uncomfortable for a child. I know when I was young to talk about race with my parents if it was never brought up. So open-ended questions can be the beginning of a dialogue about race and racism. I will leave all the resources I can to help you out in the description box below. I really hope these videos are helpful. This took me a lot of work and a lot of time to put together. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.